In my opinion, there are some books that we must read. And why? Because they will give you the basics to understand a position. Now, it's true, we are not as strong as Stockfish. We will never be. And so Stockfish obviously is at another level, and it's okay. But the point is, at a certain point, you're going to play a game, right? You are not allowed to use Stockfish because that's considered cheating, apart in correspondence chess, where everybody uses Stockfish. So the point is, you need to be able to evaluate the position. But how do you evaluate the position? If you don't understand that it's the pawn structure that gives you the plan. So that's why you need to read a book like this, because there are a lot of games inside, and the author is divided in different pawn structures, and at the end of the book, if you have enough memory, you will remember these pawn structures, and you will remember what to do when they happen into your games. The game I want to show you today, it was played in Nottingham 1936 between Botwinick and Widmer. Botwinick was going to become the world champion for a very long time. And here you see how he already overwhelmed another grandmaster and wins in very few moves because he understands deeply the pawn structure. Notice Botwinick also said that you need to analyze your games, okay? But how do you analyze your games if you don't have the basic understanding and knowledge of pawn structures that Botwinick had because he studied other tests? So the game starts with c4. Now c4 is called the English opening, and in reality, if black plays e5, this is a reverse Sicilian, okay? In this game, black plays e6. Botwinick continues with knight f3 because he's going to develop a piece and control some central squares, right? d5 and d4. And now practically we are back in a queen's gambit. We are not anymore in the English opening. Why? Because this is it. e4, d5, c4, e6, knight f3. Same opening with a transposition of moves, right? Okay. Black continue with knight f6, so this is the queen's gambit. At the moment is not accepted. If black played this, it would have been accepted, so this is called queen gambit or orthodox game. Knight c3, bishop e7, bishop g5, castle, e3, knight bd7, and bishop d3. Okay. Although it allows black an early c5, Botwinick was happy to play this move. Well, you must know that there is another thing, however. And okay, here he just waited up to the maximum he could wait before developing this, because now you could play also this, and that is said the white loses a tempo. But it's not so true, okay? Because black, on the contrary, loses the center. So this is definitely an interesting move because it attacks the center. And you will see in another series of games I will show that the center is the most important thing. In any case, let's move on. After c5, castle. And c takes d4. obviously the alternative here is take a6, so you develop on the queen side. E takes d4, d takes c4, and bishop takes c4. And obviously now we have an isolated queen pawn. Okay, so you need to know what to do. If you were black, what would you do? If you are black, you know that when there is an isolated queen pawn, you want to control the square in front of the isolated queen pawn. Why? Because this is weak. It's not protected, right, by another pawn. So it can be attacked, but it can only be attacked if it is still, standing still there. If it moves, it cannot really be attacked. So the move at this point is knight b6, okay? But today they consider this move more precise. Why? Because after this and this, you are still blocking it, right? And you also oblige white to play this. So again, you need to study your opening theory and understand why. Okay. So because as you can see, knight b6 is good because blocks, right? But the problem is, what do you do with this? This is not coming out. So that's why a6 with the idea of b5 maybe made more sense. Okay? But again, you need to interpret it as you want. And at least through this game, you start to become aware of how to fight against the isolated queen pawn, or how to get a big advantage thanks to it, which is through the push, right? So white continue with bishop b3 because it was attack, right? And now there is the problem that comes out, right? Blacks need to develop this, but look how many tempi is using for this. Okay? Here it says we are entering a delicate phase of the game. Black has blockaded the isolated pawn successfully, but is unaware of another threat. It is true that in case of knight bd5, okay, knight bd5, knight e5, white keeps a spatial advantage, but it seems that knight fd5 looks better. It says it's a simplification through exchanges, look better. Okay, let's see what happens, right? So after this, there is queen d3. So notice this queen d3 because it's interesting, because obviously it points at here. This is the defender, and after this move you have a possible attack, right? Okay, so knight bd5. It seems that it was better this move for the author, that is Grandmaster Drazen Marovic, because this would practically make the position less strong, less pressure on black, right? So instead of this move. But let's see what happens. Knight e5, bishop c6, rook a d1, and here there is knight b4. Another attempt at simplification in the form. Okay, so if black would have tried this, would have been this take, and then it would have gone back. So it wouldn't have worked so well. Why, for example, why this is going back? Because the rook is already developed, so it's not out of the game, and white keeps the possibility of the attack on this side. So as you can see, there is a strategy here. There is a different way of handling the position. Okay, so instead black played knight b4. To which follow what? What would you play if you were white? Because obviously the most important thing is that you put yourself in Botwinic shoes and think, hey, what would I do in this position? That will really make you improve your chess. Botwinic played queen h3. Once more, now the block. So as you can see, Vidmar is doing what you would learn reading Nintsovich. Nintsovich speaks of a blockade, and this is the blockade. Now he's trying to blockade at every cost, but again, sometimes some things that make sense because you learn them are not the correct way of dealing with the position. So let's see what happens, right? Remember one thing, generally the bishop pair is very, very important. Here, black is giving it away. Knight takes d5. And knight b takes d5. Okay. For the fourth time in the game, Vidmar plays with a wrong knight. He underrates the oncoming attack. So, he says he should have played this, but this is very interesting, yeah. Obviously, he doesn't want to leave this unprotected, so that's the reason. But probably this was the right move, because when you are under attack, what do? You exchange pieces to make the pressure go away and also the attack go away. Notice that this is a possible threat, possible because obviously it's not really super good, but so it takes with this. Let's see what happens. f4 and rook c8. So look at this, because this is interesting. It says that if white would have played this, and this is the right knight, then you could have seen this move, blocking everything probably. That's interesting. Because obviously there is a problem with this b3 bishop and this attack, and so this makes sense. And makes sense also that you have these pieces that are going into the white territory. You don't want to keep your pieces only on your territory, otherwise you are not going to do any damage, right? So after f4, rook c8. And now comes the problem, right? Because he wants to exert pressure on this diagonal. In order to exert pressure on this diagonal, you must make this shaky a little. How do you make it? Obviously with this move. And notice how white is gaining space. It's really a beautiful game, I think, because it's very simple and yet it shows you what the problem is. So e takes f5, rook takes f5. So now the rook has also the f-file, and this, you need to see sometimes all the threats, that's important. Queen d6. Now, obviously, if you buy the book, there are many much more annotations, but let's just see what happens, because you will be kind of surprised. Please, after this move, Queen d6, put yourself, stop the video, pause the video, and think, what would you do if you were white? I think I already gave you an idea because I told you that there is an attack. It's a typical TAL attack on what? So if you pause the video and now you take it back, I can tell you what is the right move, okay? The TAL attack is always against f7. TAL always sacrifice something on f7 because, like I told you, he made it shaky thanks to removing this, and now it's a direct thing, right? Rook takes f7, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, and now he gets back the stuff with a vengeance. Because again, this is still here, so you must still see this. It's crazy. Queen c6, rook d6. And you say, haha, I can take this. No, careful, because again, you cannot take, right? So this move is amazing because he finally opens this, attack this, attack this. So what do you do here? You have to retreat. But then, again, oops, and now you have a really huge problem because next move could be this or could be this, and clearly black has lost. Here it says Widmar lost because he was completely unaware of the threat on the e2 g8 diagonal. Not another feature of the game. All through the game we never felt the d4 pawn as a weakness. On the contrary, although blocked, its support for the dominant knight on e5 played a key role in Botwinic attack. Botwinic win is too well known, perhaps somewhat worn out by long years of attention paid to it, but it was played with such a clarity of purpose that in the topic we tackle no other game can stand instead of it. So this kind of game that you just have seen is something you must memorize and remember. Why? Because it tells you a lot. It tells you about the failure of the idea of the blockade and how this bishop contributed, He was there all the game doing nothing, but in reality he was attacking on that diagonal. And Botwinic had that idea and he made it happen. So it's a beautiful game. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching.